What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Progressive Gentleman Podcast. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Dan.
I'm Matt.
And we'd like to thank you for taking the time to nerd out about music with us. This episode is brought to you by Eargasm Earplugs. Take the step to protect your hearing today. Go to eargasm.com. Use code Gentleman10 at checkout for a discount. And a few episodes ago, we kind of broke into the band interview space with our interview of Nafel. Today, we continue on that journey with our friends in Desolance over in the UK. What's up, guys?
How you doing?
You guys want to Oh, it's going great, man. You guys want to introduce yourselves to the audience? Let them know who you are, what you do in the band.
So I'm Shay. I do the shouty stuff for the band.
Nice.
I'm Ed. I do the guitar and a little bit of singing now and again in small doses.
And I'm Keelan. I'm the bassist.
Fantastic.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, it is nice to formally meet you guys. We've had some back and forth on social media and all that fun stuff, but it's nice to actually, put some faces to the names and get to know you guys a little bit more. How'd you guys meet? How'd you guys form? How'd the band start? I'd love to hear sort of the origin story, so to speak.
You say that? Yeah, we kind of me and Ed, we met at uni. We both did mechanical engineering at Nottingham University, which is like in the middle of the country. And yeah, Ed got like seriously into writing and stuff when we were at uni. And I was kind of just there with my acoustic guitar, like not really. I was into metal for sure, like that's how we kind of become friends, I guess. But yeah, I kind of took a break from the guitar, and then Ed was just like going hard at it. And then when we left uni, he just said like, "Why don't you get a bass? Get a bass."
She just forced you to get a bass.
But I was kind of interested in learning, like just learning some songs from metal bands that I liked anyway. So I was like, sure, I'll get a bass. And then we kind of just started during that was like the start of lockdown 2020. We just kept going like that.
I guess we started kind of just writing stuff, and we were on the hunt for like a vocalist and stuff, and we kind of met a few people along the way, and then like friend of a friend, and we ended up meeting Shay, and there he is, and
there he is.
The man, the myth, the legend.
We heard Shay from his previous band, 1,000 Voices, and his vocals are just like really stood out. Like for the people that it was so long finding a vocalist, and we did find this other guy that was really cool, Mike, but it kind of didn't really work out in the end. It was a bit difficult with the distance and stuff, but yeah, when we heard Shay's vocals, it was like, this is kind of like the top tier for us.
Where we are in this sort of like, bit like having nothing out at all. Yeah, it was like we heard Shay and we were like, oh, this boy's got it. So so we wrote him in.
It was like, yeah, I got like serious, like some of the 1,000 Voices stuff got like serious, like Ollie Sykes vibes at times, and that was kind of like what drew me in. But
yeah, that's awesome. It's always cool to see sort of not only like, I mean, in your guys' instance, a band was formed out of sort of a mutual love for like heavy music. But it's cool to see like the friendships and stuff that are formed out of sort of the mutual love for heavy music. I feel like heavy music in general gets a stigma, and I feel like we're all just a bunch of teddy bears, but no, that's really that's awesome. That's a really cool story. You guys were saying basically, you're in like a triangle where it's just like 100 miles. Where do you guys actually meet up to record, rehearse? Do you have like someone lives in the middle, or is it more of a place that you guys just go to sort of practice, record, rehearse, whatever?
I think for a lot of the time, like we kind of do stuff like sort of remotely at home. When it comes to like rehearsals and stuff, because I live in Norwich in a place called, I say Norwich, it's like a town that's like 45 minutes out called Lowestoft, and obviously these guys live in Luton. So we kind of meet up like at a in between when we kind of just rehearse. But for the last 2 records we've recorded, obviously, I don't know if you guys know this already, but obviously went to Glasgow, Scotland to record with Stephen Jones from Bleed From Within. So yeah, but at the moment
it's a cool name. It's a cool name drop there.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Nicely done.
How quick,
when the band first sort of like formed, we didn't actually rehearse that much. It wasn't until after we got obviously the first EP done and sort of like the back end of last year and most of this year we've been rehearsing a bit more, which is probably why like we are looking to like kind of do shows soon, which is probably why we're on the hunt for like a drummer and everything as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of bands? I know you guys, you formed your bond sort of with a mutual love for heavy music. What kind of bands in particular would you say sort of inspire your sound, or just you guys in general as musicians?
I think for me anyway, because I tend to do most of the 95% probably of the actual instrumental stuff, and then generally how it works is that like I'll write something and then run it past Keelan and Shay, and then they both kind of give me bits of feedback, and I go back and I try and rework it a little bit, and then come back and like, what do you think of this? And then that it just kind of iterates like that. But for me anyway, I guess I think the reason why I ended up going towards like the sort of progressive stuff is because it's like they're just like a bit of it, something a bit interesting in a band rather than just being the same stuff. And I think that's what probably gets most of us into the progressive stuff. You just kind of just looking for that extra little bit, whether maybe they just, even if it's just like throwing a chord that isn't in the scale in the chorus or something like that, something that just kind of catches you off, or like, there's just that little, that verse that's maybe in 5/4 or something like that. I always look for like little things like that and listen out for those. And I think that's kind of what pulled me into that. So bands like, and you guys kind of said this when you listened to our first EP, but like Era, I love Fit for an Autopsy, obviously Periphery just inspire everyone. So yeah, just like those kind of bands,
Yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. And obviously, I mean, for anyone listening who hasn't listened to Desolance, I mean, when you listen to their music, you'll pretty much get the vibes of the bands that he just dropped. I also get a lot of Invent Animate.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
That's a compliment, because their new album is sick.
Yeah, Heaven is so good.
Yeah, it's very good. But so yeah, I mean, it's definitely cool stuff. Just before we talk about the first EP, because I do want to touch on that. I kind of am this is more of like my own personal curiosity. You guys are over in the UK. What is the metal scene like over there, just in general?
It's pretty. There's a lot. It's not as, I guess you've got a lot more of it. Like there's bands that you've got over there that just don't come over here very often. Like you've got so much of it.
It's crazy you say that, because I always feel that about just Europe in general. Like the tours that you got, not just the tours, but like the festivals and stuff, the prog festivals that happen over there. Like
Radar and Arctangent and stuff.
Like, yeah, make me extremely jealous. Like, I wish that those came here. Like, I do understand maybe some bands from the US only maybe tour the US, or we get certain tours that you guys don't, but yeah, some of those festivals that I see that come through over there, I'm just always like, wow, I need to go there. Like, so
it's probably like the grass is always greener in it, because we see some tours over in America and we're like, oh, man, like I wish we could go to that show. Like that lineup is so good, and it's like that's never going to come over here.
I was always a fan of like the Warped Tour lineup years ago, before obviously it got cancelled. But like as a 13-year-old kid, I actually begged my mum once to like put me on a plane to see if I could go, but obviously it didn't happen. But I loved it every time, and I still find myself like watching the highlight videos now. Like when Volumes played there in like 2014, they done their live version of Edge of the Earth. And I just watch that back every so often, because that live performance there, just yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Warped Tour was always cool. Like, yeah, like you said, sort of growing up, like your early teens and going to Warped Tour, that was always sort of like almost like a rite of passage for like people who liked heavy music, or even like punk music, stuff like that. I feel like, speaking for myself, growing up a lot of that stuff was kind of where I started with heavy music. So like those tours, those, you know, festivals were always very much geared to exactly what I was listening to at the time. So yeah, those were always huge. Like one of my favorite Warped Tour moments was probably, I don't know if you guys are Coheed and Cambria fans, and I feel like I always have to name drop them at some point in every episode. Um, but I wish I remembered the year, but for some reason, I think like Katy Perry or some shit was at Warped Tour that year. And it made no sense, but she, I mean, she drew a big crowd, but Coheed was like wrapping their set as she was starting hers. And they closed with Welcome Home. This was like right when it was either right when Good Apollo 1 dropped or like shortly before it dropped. And she completely stopped mid set, and like the whole crowd from her like stage came over and like crowded around Coheed stage for them playing Welcome Home, which was like, it's something that still kind of gives me goosebumps to think about and remember because it was just such a cool experience. So yeah, Warped Tour was real cool. I guess I didn't really need to go into that whole story, but but this is what happens whenever you end up talking to us. I apologize. Anyways, what about like
the main one?
Oh, go ahead.
Like the main one in the UK is obviously Download.
Yes.
But even back in the day, even like maybe 10 years ago, Reading Festival was still pretty heavy. That's how I ended up getting into metal. Bands that were a bit smaller back then, like Enter Shikari.
Yeah.
So I saw Enter Shikari, and that was like when they'd done maybe 3 or 4 albums, and that was kind of my gateway into metal because it was just like apocalyptic. Like like it was crazy. But going back to that for your question about like the local scene, like for us, there's bands like that are quite local to where I am at the minute. But then Heart of a Coward as well, they're probably our single greatest influence, I guess.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. How like crowds at shows, like do they go hard? Do they go crazy? Like is it like hit or miss, or is it just always pretty awesome?
Yeah, kind of depends where you are. Like we've seen some bands and like the crowd's a little bit dead, but then other bands, like I think it always depends like on the following. So like you take with bands, so like I'm a massive Alter Bridge fan. I don't know if you guys know Alter Bridge, but I'm like, that's kind of how I got into like heavier music and stuff. And like you go see a show like of theirs, or like, and the crowd just like love it. And it's the same with like with Bleed From Within, to be fair as well. You know, like I feel like bands that have that kind of close knit following, you know, where like if you like that band, they're probably your favorite band or something like that. You know what I mean? That like you always get like a really great crowd. It's probably the same in America, but like, and then there's other bands and you go and see them and you have a good night, and it's not the best gig you've ever been to, but it's still good, you know. So
yeah, I feel like we're super hit or miss over here. I'm speaking about Pittsburgh sort of specifically. I mean, it's a weird market for heavy music. I mean, we'll sell shows out, and then that same band will come back, and we want like it'll be very sparse. Like it's interesting to see, like how it fluctuates. I don't really understand. I can never really explain why that's the case. So it's like I'll go to a show and I'll be like, wow, this is one of the best shows I've ever been to. That band will come back, I'll go and I'll be like, wow, the crowd was kind of dead. August Burns Red's a band that I feel like I've seen in different, like here with different lineups where they'll come and they'll go hard, and then the next time they come through there's like it's a very sparse crowd. And now they're actually filming the show in Pittsburgh. August Burns Red is, I think,
Wednesday?
That's next Wednesday. So anytime I see that, I'm like, oh man, I'm nervous, because is Pittsburgh gonna actually show out, or is it gonna look like absolute shit for these guys who are like,
they're gonna like cancel the filming, be like, this sucks, you guys are awful.
So literally as soon as I saw them announce that, I was like, oh no, I'm nervous. I was like, I feel like we should probably go just to at least be like the two crazy people. And I was like, and even if it's just dead, we'll just wear our Progressive Gentleman hoodies and just be like in the middle of the empty crowd so that we get free advertisement. But yeah, I mean, it's good to hear that. I mean, it sounds like things are pretty similar, maybe a little bit better than what we have here, but it seems, I was just curious because some of those festivals, like I said, every time I see those posters, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And there are,
crazy. But
yeah.
like, yeah, I think when it comes to just venues, it does depend on the room. Like, there's some places where I'm like, if I see that they're playing like O2 Academy, for example, like Islington in North London, I'm going because it's just one of my favorite rooms. Like, but then some of them it's like,
yeah,
I've had bad experiences. But
there was a room in Nottingham, and I'm going to say the venue because I want to shit on it, but like they had like an upstairs room, and like if a band played in there, you could just the sound was never that good, and the crowd never really got it just because of and it was just because of the sound, really. Like, it wasn't really anything else, I don't think, but like, yeah, it just never really kind of hit you in the same way that it does in other venues and stuff. Yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I there are a couple of venues here as well where it's like you said, it just seems like sometimes just the sound, the mix, something is off. And yeah, so I've actually ended up having some like pretty bad experiences with some like bands that I was seeing for the first time. Super excited to see them. Like Veil of Maya sticks out to me. I went and saw them live for the first time, and the mix was just terrible. And I was like, is it the venue? Is it like they just, I don't know, was something off with the vocalist? But
That's kind of what happened with Spirit Box too. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
she
but
just
she,
was like over COVID, so her voice was kind of like not all back to begin with. But then I think like they didn't account for that, like when they mixed it, and like when they were doing sound check and stuff. And I don't know, it sounded really off, and it was
but
kind
like
of disappointing because it was the first time seeing them, and just like super excited, and then was like, oh, that was kind of an underwhelming experience.
Spirit Box kind of has just like a blind following though. Like, as long as like Courtney LaPlante's on stage, like people are just screaming and whatever, like whatever, like just
Yeah, they have
falling over each other.
exploded.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little ridiculous.
they've been here.
I don't know. I don't know if they actually have been. I'm not sure. They must have been.
Yeah,
they must have been.
Sleep Token's blowing up too. Are you guys fan of Sleep Token?
I actually saw them about a month and a half ago in
That's
London.
awesome.
They were really good. I mean, you can't fault them, really. Like, you just can't. I mean, whether they're, I think some bands like that, whether they're your thing or not, you kind of have to take your hat off to them, because they've like, it's so hard nowadays to like actually find something that's completely new, and I think they have done that. And
Yeah,
I mean, like, yeah, they got the gimmick kind of thing without, like, with the masks, and now you don't know who it is, but like, and you can kind of say that's cheesy or what, but like, regardless of that, I think it's still impressive to like completely find a new sound and pull it off so well. Like, that dude's voice sounds exactly like it does like on the track as it does live. Like,
that's impressive. Yeah, they just announced a tour coming through North America, and tickets sold out in like 5 minutes. Like, they weren't coming to Pittsburgh, so we would have had to have like gone to Philly, which is also in PA, but it's like 5 hours, a 5-hour drive. But I was still like, I'm thinking about it, but I didn't have time to think about it because tickets sold out before I could think about it. So
Like the whole US tour sold out in like less than 24 hours.
yeah, it was pretty ridiculous.
wow.
But that groove section at the end of the summoning, just that drives me nuts. Like, I mean, they're not like my favorite band by any means, and like some of the gimmicky stuff I don't really like fall in line with all that much, but yeah, something about that song just it does something to me.
Gets you all hot and bothered.
Oh yeah, but let's stop talking about other bands here and let's get back to you guys. So
Yeah.
the EP you guys dropped last year, All That Is Left to Believe, what was the writing process like for that? Just sort of going through it. I know you had mentioned earlier, you write sort of most of it sort of remote, or probably all of it remote, and then just sort of share ideas. Is that kind of how this whole thing went down as well?
I guess so. I mean, it was.
I guess like some of them took ages. Like, some of them took like 2 years to come together, kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, we started back at the start of the pandemic, really. Like, Ed started bouncing demos over to me, and there was this one riff that was written by my cousin, actually, who was like the second guitarist at a point. And there was this track, the first track, actually, Inflicted. It just that one was in the bank for a long time. But then there would be some songs like Rapture, for example. Ed just bounced that out straight to me, and I had like nothing bad to say about it. It just didn't. It didn't for me. I don't even think I actually said anything about that one. I think it just stayed as it was.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of riff off of that, that's probably, and I think Matt, you share the same opinion, but that's probably my favorite song from you guys. That like groovy intro, and then like the same thing with the bridge, like pre and post chorus, like even the outro, like the whole sort of like anything that makes me want to like start bopping or like bobbing my head, like that. Yeah, and that whole song had me doing that. So big fan of that track.
Oh,
Yeah, it's got the headbang, the stank face, and the the kind of the bob. So you get the trifecta.
Actually, not to blow our own trumpet or anything. So that was the one. So basically, the way we kind of got in touch with Stephen was, so I think we'd already been talking to Shay at this point, and I am right in saying this, Shay. Like you were about when we. I'm sorry, my memory's kind of failing me, but like you were about when we were talking to Stephen right at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we were part of it as well.
Yeah. So we've been through a couple of like other guitarists that kind of come and gone and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway. So me and Keelan had always been massive fans of Bleed From Within. So when we used to just listen to them like all the time in the gym when we were at uni and stuff. Like we just I fucking love them, and like their album Mirror is sick. And I knew Stephen did producing and mixing and stuff. And I said to Keelan, I was like, I wonder if we just send him a song just to see if he could give us some feedback on what it's like. And I actually sent him the whole EP to start with. And he emailed me back, and he was just like, yeah, I haven't got enough time to like listen to all 6 songs. Like I was like, okay. We picked 2, which was Rapture and The Veil, neither of which had vocals on at the time, to be fair. And I sent those back, and his reply was so he was so nice. He was like, I've actually just stopped what I was doing and sat down to reply to you guys because these are like the best demos I've had in like forever. And it was really, awesome. It's really nice. It was really nice to hear. And you always kind of think, it's probably not anything special, but like it was really nice to kind of have that feedback. And ever since then, to be fair, he's been great, like as like a kind of like mentoring us a little bit in a way. But
I guess that kind of like that getting that feedback from him was kind of like what kicked us into gear to be a band rather than just Ed writing music. Like
yeah. That was kind of like a validating moment for you guys.
It's hard, right? You never like that transition, and I think there's so many people doing it in their bedroom, like nowadays. There's so many, and that's not to shit on anyone doing it in their bedroom, because I did it for like ages. But I think it's hard to know because this, like, especially this genre as well, is so saturated with people, and you've got like the progressive metal like instrumental guitarists who are like programming the bass and the drums and just releasing music, and it's like insane technicality on guitar and stuff. The whole thing is just like saturated with it, so it's kind of hard to know when you're doing something that's actually worthwhile, especially when you're so close to it, because you don't know if it's good or not. So kind of having
yeah, like speaking for myself personally as a person who likes to make music in his bedroom, I feel like there's always that sort of like you took all the time to create this, so it's like you almost have that sort of hesitancy to share it with anyone, because it's like, what if they shit all over it and I spent, like you said, some of these tracks took like 2 years or whatever, like, what if I spent 2 years off and on making this thing that I feel like is great, and I send it to someone and they're like, what is this shit that you sent me? Like and like, so I think that's awesome, that to sort of be able to get that validation, especially from somebody who you sort of like revere. And just to throw something out there, The Veil is like a sweet way to end that EP as well. Like the outro to that is sick too. Like everything about like those last 2 tracks especially, but I mean the EP in general is very well written, and but like those 2 to sort of close it out, those are both bangers. So
thanks, man. I mean, so like I don't want to talk too much, like because Shay can obviously tell you a lot about the like the writing of like the lyrics and that kind of thing, but I think I like to think anyway that like the only, because it is hard to set yourself apart from everyone else, but I think like the thing that does kind of make our stuff maybe a little bit different is the groove, I guess, because I think there's a lot of bands like, especially again in this genre, there's just so much technicality, like, and that's fine, and there's a time and a place for that. But I think, you know, sometimes you just want to just like nod your head a bit. And I come from listening to like loads of dubstep when I was a kid, so like everything's just like just kick and then snare and then kick and then snare, and then all the groove is made by the bass lines. So that's kind of where my head goes to when I write a riff. It's just like really simple drum beat, you know, and then like how can I move the guitars around that to make it kind of groove. And I think that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of the writing process. It always starts with a riff like that, and then kind of break it down and try and turn it into something that's actually listenable and not 20 riffs in a row, you know. So
yeah, and like I had mentioned too, the groovy parts are kind of what stands out, and I do agree that does sort of set you guys like apart from just, like you said, the very saturated progressive metalcore, whatever you want to call it, genres. So that's definitely, it's noticeable. I enjoy it personally. I do think it makes you guys stand out. So that's definitely cool. And I am interested to hear as well about like the lyric writing process as well, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, did you get like you kind of get any direction, or were you just like given a track and be like, go with it?
I mean, basically, I mean, a lot of times, like kind of touching back to what Ed said yesterday about earlier about sort of like sharing ideas. Like Ed knows that I love like everything that he sends to me. He knows that. And like I remember like with my old bands, like writing became like a huge problem for me because like we had literally just released our EP and then we went straight into the lockdown. So things like kind of slowed down like a lot. So we started writing, I tried writing remotely for that, and I was kind of getting better at sort of like the home production side of things anyway. And I was having like a huge problem with like trying to obviously basically I was writing up songs that I just wasn't happy with, and the rest of the band weren't happy with either. And that's because I found myself like kind of writing about the same sort of thing like over and over again. And for months, I was actually going back and forth with Tyler Tate from Hollowfront. Do you know
Yeah.
him?
Cool.
And,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he was like super kind because I kind of like I messaged him one time and I was like, so I really liked them at the time. I still do. But I was like, hey man, can I pick your brains and stuff like that? And then he was really good to like keep checking in with me sort of like over months and stuff. And like it just kept happening and the thing. And he just kind of said something to me that kind of like kind of weighed on it. It says like maybe your issue is that you're just not emotionally connecting to the songs. So like a few more months like sort of passed this way until like one time they messaged me saying like, you know, what's going on? We haven't seen much from you. We haven't heard from you. And I was like, you know, guys, I don't think this is for me anymore and stuff like that. And then after that, things and like sort of my personal life sort of like took over. And it wasn't until like because the UK kind of went into a lockdown once and then it kind of eased up again, and then we went into another one. So when the other one came around, I started playing guitar a lot more again, and I was kind of focused on that. And yeah, a friend of a friend, a few months later, obviously my friend Josh had been talking with Ed about this band, about joining guitarists, and he'd come around to mine like that afternoon to kind of talk to me about it, and he wanted to show me the songs. But I remember at that particular time I was either busy or I just wasn't like in the sort of like frame of mind thing. But he sent them to me anyway, and I took them from my WhatsApp to save to my computer because I knew if I left them on my WhatsApp they would just get lost and I wouldn't listen to them. And yeah, and I remember it was Inflicted was the first one I heard, and I just like immediately connected with it. Like it was listening to it and just being able to like think of things that would work like straight off the bat and everything like that. So Inflicted was the first song I actually wrote lyrics for, and I showed them to Ed and Keelan, and they were, you know, quite pleased with them, which was great. So that gave me like the kind of momentum that I needed back. So that obviously gave me drive to keep writing for like more ones until obviously Ed doesn't write in 4/4 like I'm used to, like all the time. So when it came to sort of like recording, like we had like a lot of lyrics like done. I mean, I remember Rapture not being finished until sort of like 2 hours until we actually started like tracking vocals for it on the day. And again with Silent Sister, but like because those two were like the last minute ones, they actually turned out to be like two of my favorite ones from the EP as well. But Ed and Keelan also had a lot of influence, like writing with a couple of songs off this the first EP and the second one, which was obviously a big help for me. Like even if they'd like given me like a concept, like that was just super helpful to like kind of go with. But yeah, we saw like I normally write like the whole base of things and then I send them over. And obviously if Ed and Keelan want to make any changes, and we just do and we compromise and we we come to something that we're all happy with, and then track it, print it, cut it, done.
Nice. Yeah, and that was the other question I was going to have a little bit was is there like sort of a base concept to the EP, or is each track sort of treated as its own entity? Like just basically the approach to it that way.
I feel like Ed would be better at answering this question. So I'm trying to think what each song is about. So with like the thing is like I'm more confident with like I love the first EP, like it was great. I'm more confident with like the sort of second one because I felt like all our techniques and the way that we write are just a bit more mature and like better. Because even when you do release something, you always kind of go back. Like even for me, like especially with like Black Gold, I was actually listening to that earlier, and I still think about like, oh, I could have probably done that a bit better, or I could have done that bit differently. But then that's why you just keep making new music, because you're able just to incorporate all your best ideas and just keep it going. But yeah, I tend to write about a lot of like personal experiences or something that is a bit depressing or a bit traumatic or something. But like my main goal is to kind of, and it sounds really cliche as well, but to kind of make things like relatable for people. Because with my old bands, a lot of the time, like the thing that connected with me the most is that people would tell me that they felt less alone, like kind of listening to a song that they felt relatable to. So that's it sort of for me. But then over the last sort of for a few months, I've realized that you can still put like a flat meaning to a song, but then kind of put like an obscure sort of construct with it. And I don't know, like if there's any, I just feel like more songs are open to like interpretation now, to more than finding them sort of like relatable, I guess. I mean, Berserker it's got a really weird meaning, like in a nutshell, because I do get asked, and to kind of cut it short, I just kind of say it like it's about a Viking that's having kind of like an existential crisis.
That's the kind of thing with actually like with Ed. The kind of concept came from Ed, which is like this Viking, and the Berserkers are kind of like the guys that go in to like clear out the village and like destroy. And yeah, you want to think?
Yeah, no, like that is pretty much it. I think we. There's like that thing with bands, like especially again, I don't want to keep saying like just within the genre because it makes me sound like a fucking hipster. I'm not trying to do that, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, there is a lot of, and I think the progressive scene is way better for it now. Like, there's some really interesting lyrics coming out of like you take the invent stuff, like their new stuff, and era stuff is always really well thought out lyrically. I think trying to move away from that metalcore thing of of being quite generic and trying to think of like ways of being a bit more metaphorical. So like the whole thing with Berserker, I kind of said to the guys was like, because mainly because I've played Assassin's Creed Valhalla and watched the
great game,
whatever. Yeah, like so like it was just kind of like it was rattling around in there, and I just said to the guys, maybe we can do something, maybe like that's a bit relatable. Maybe we can talk about like self-reflection and anger management and things like that, but from the perspective of like this Viking dude. And it was a bit fucking random and off the wall, to be honest, but
go into it.
But like, yeah, so it's like if you listen to the song, you can kind of hear the lyrics kind of describe as he kind of goes into that sort of, because they used to go into like this sort of berserk state. That's where you get like the word berserk from, and then they kind of like come out of it and have this sort of weird like dream state almost for like a couple of days, or that's what like they say in like mushrooms. Yeah, like they kind of like they think that these dudes might have been doing some serious mushrooms and shit. So like, yeah, so I don't know, but like they used to come out and have like these like weird fucking like dream states for like 2 days. So the whole song's kind of like that, you know, it kind of builds to the like I don't know, it's like breakdown or middle eight in the middle, which is like the sort of like super aggressive bit right in the middle of the song where they're like peaking at like anger levels, and then as it kind of tails off, you know, you kind of get into that. The last part is this, you know, you've got like all the like the harmonized cleans and all that sort of stuff at the end, where it kind of like fades out. That's kind of like to represent them sort of coming to almost, and then the last part of it is almost like a sort of moment of self-reflection, I guess, and you know, all this shit's down to interpretation, but that's just kind of what it means to me anyway. That's kind of what I intended for the song when I wrote it. So yeah.
No, that's
Cool.
awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. So in case the audience, you know, didn't pick it up, we're talking about the new single, Berserker, which is off of a new EP that you guys are working on. Do you guys want to touch on that at all? I would think that you would. I know personally, I'm intrigued. Is it all going to be sort of built into this kind of concept? Are we following this Viking dude around for some tracks?
I'm invested in this.
Like the Viking dude's on hold a little bit. We've taken the same kind of concept as we did with the first EP. So Ed's written two of them.
Two of them lyrically, I did. Yeah.
And like I kind of, and then the third one we all So like did one or two.
So you did all the lyrics pretty much for one.
Yeah.
And then I did for two. Shay did for like three, and then and it all kind of gets into like the melting pot, you know. We all kind of.
But the next single is definitely what we're most excited about, I think. Which is another one of those ones with like Rapture where Ed just kind of wrote it and I didn't really have any problem with it.
Nice.
And then it all just came together, I think, in the studio, like with Shay. Like sometimes Shay will just come up with a groove or it just immediately is a hook for me. And I'm quite picky. I'm always like trying to find the hook, like can it be hookier? But sometimes Shay just comes out with this bits and it's stuck in my head, and I've heard it off of a voice note and it's been stuck in my head for 2 days, and I'm like,
Me and Keelan are like that, where we like, I think sometimes we're so like, because we're both engineers, right? So we're so like anal about everything. We're so fucking OCD. And like and all that stuff that we like overthink shit to the nth degree, and then Shay will just come out with this like super, like often the best ideas are like the simplest, but like super simple and like super catchy, just little hook, and it will just get stuck in. And I think Shay keeps us in check in terms of like keeping us relatable and keeping us like keeping us kind of grounded, I guess, for like the ordinary person, if you know what I mean, rather than going off on some weird ass spiral of like
That is something worth noting too, just in these genres in general. I feel like a lot of times the parts of songs that stick with people are often like almost the simplest parts, just the grooviest parts, which is why I think what you guys do, especially with the first EP and, you know, the songs that we've been able to hear, that, you know, obviously we haven't heard the unreleased stuff yet, looking forward to that, but sort of you guys stay in that like groove, which is often the parts that get stuck in people's heads. So when that's like essentially consistent throughout a song, an EP, an album, whatever, I feel like that sort of, I don't know, it keeps me drawn in, because like I said, anytime I'm just like grooving or bopping in my chair while I'm jamming to something, like that stuff kind of resonates with me, sticks with me. You know, people can be as technical as they want, whatever, and that's impressive and that's great. And I love that shit too, don't get me wrong. But I do enjoy the fact that, you know, I can just sort of sit there and groove with what you guys and some other bands do similar things, but what you guys do or have done that we've, you know, from what we've heard, I think there's something to be said about that. So just wanted to randomly throw that out there.
Thanks, man. I think definitely on the second EP anyway. So I think when I do the instrumentals anyway, and it's like trying to add in that extra little bit of like progressiveness, like just got to kind of slide it under the door without anyone kind of noticing. Like in Rapture, it's like the verses are in like that sort of 6/8 kind of swingy thing, and you kind of get thrown from 4/4 into that, and then you're like, oh, this is groovy, and then you kind of come back, and it's there's a few little bits like that, but I think it's definitely better in the second EP in terms of like adding a few more of those kind of bits in the riffs where it's like there's a song on there which kind of makes you, the first riff you kind of get makes you feel like you're in 5/4, and then all of a sudden it kind of just rounds itself out into 4/4, and then the next one comes in and you like feel like you're in triplets, but then you kind of get back into 4/4, and I think that's like, I know I'm not a fucking expert, and I don't know. There's probably there's people that are a lot better at using those things like more cleverly than I am, but I think that's where the real like that's where it's cool, and that's where it's clever, when you can kind of slide it in and it's still musical and it's still catchy, because anyone can just like throw a load of notes and 5/4 and call it progressive, right?
Yeah, and I guess I keep saying the first EP, the only EP that we have access to is All That Is Left to Believe. Is that your second EP?
Oh no, sorry. So that's our first and only EP.
Okay.
So
Okay.
The one that's coming out. Like
okay. I just wanted to make sure I was right there, because I didn't know if because sometimes things in Spotify or whatever, like over in the UK versus what's here, like sometimes you guys have things that we don't have and vice versa. So I was like, am I completely missing something? So, all right.
Sometimes there's
good.
stuff too with the artist. Like if there's another artist with the same name, like I know for a long time Whitechapel was mixed with like there's like an EDM artist Whitechapel, so you get like crazy like death metal, like deathcore, and then it goes into like this EDM mix, and you're like, what am I listening to? So I didn't know if maybe that was a situation.
They really changed direction, they went in a new direction. But no, okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was right there. Yeah. So that EP is awesome. The groove and stuff in there, it's really catchy. I mean, I was listening to it this morning, one in preparation for this, but two, I jam your guys' stuff. It's in a couple of my playlists as well. So definitely something that I enjoy listening to. But anything on this new EP that you guys sort of like changed your process or changed your, any new inspirations, any new directions, anything like that, that is worth mentioning? Like anything between your first one and this one?
I'll let Shay talk. I feel like I've talked too much.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I feel like with this EP, it's more mature. It's more like aggressive, definitely more heavier as well. As I said earlier as well, like when it comes to like Walk It, always working with kind of like songs that are based out of like 4/4. With the first EP, when it came to like writing for that, it was quite difficult. And that's when it came to recording and stuff like that. Like sometimes I had to get Ed to kind of word out like what he actually wanted me to do, because I don't know if I was just incapable or if I just wasn't getting it, but it just helped to have that sort of reference there. But with the second EP, we didn't really need to do it that much, did we? We found like everything just happened like so much quicker this time around. We're more prepared for it. But yeah, I think with this EP, it's definitely more, like I said, more mature, more grown up, I'd say. For me, it's a more of a personal thing for me, because with the EP, first EP, I was kind of relying on like sort of like old technique from like what I'd known about screaming before, and sort of like the year in between the first EP, I kind of learned how to use like my whole range. So we've incorporated a lot of that with the new EP. So yeah, for me personally, I'm excited because I'm excited for people that know my vocals to hear something new. But I'm also excited for like Ed and Keelan, especially because obviously this is their first band, and to be in a band with two dudes that have never been in a band before, and to do two EPs in the span of a year, it's just like, for me, that's more progress than I've made with like any other bands that I've previously been in. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. So it's good. I'm definitely more excited for Ed and Keelan because I just want to see their faces when we play live for the first time and see what they're going to be like.
That'll be awesome. And that was something I was going to mention too, is the turnaround time seems pretty quick. I mean, you guys dropped the first EP last year, and then you're already pretty much, working on dropping this new one. Do we have any hard dates that are worth mentioning, or is it all still sort of,
So I've been in talks about a tour at the end of sort of November time, but nothing's set fully confirmed yet.
That's pretty awesome.
I think if we don't find like a full lineup in sort of like the next few months, we might just have to do the whole sort of like putting the drums on a MIDI back and then kind of playing live like that. Which I'm happy with, like either way. But the last time I played a show was the 14th of March 2020, so I'm kind of itching to get back out there again.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, a definite full lineup would be cool though, definitely. But I think we can work with just our backing tracks because that's what we do at rehearsals now anyway, and it sounds good. So.
Yeah. So we got a potential tour. Any hard dates for a new single or new music, anything like that?
I think we can look at the second single is going to be like probably about six weeks from now. We're going to be dropping that single and then just drilling that
It's hard. It's like a social media game nowadays, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And that's something that we try to keep up with it as best we can. But I mean, we both have full-time jobs, as I assume probably you guys all have full-time jobs. So it's like, it's tough to keep on things, especially if you get busy at work. I mean, we haven't posted anything on social media probably for like 2 weeks of any substance. It's been tough, but no, we totally get that. But that's awesome. As soon as you guys do have any hard dates, please let us know. We'll obviously share them with our audience. We'll be posting your stuff as you go through this process as well. And and if you guys ever end up over here in the US, don't skip Pittsburgh. We'll be there.
Oh, man. You'll be the only two guys there.
Hey, listen, we're basically a 2-man party, so that'll be probably your best show. I'm just throwing that out there.
We can be really good hype beasts.
Oh yeah.
We can get them ready for they can get warmed up by we send out some merch to you guys.
We could send some merch. Yeah, can we send you guys some merch? We could do that.
Oh, we'd love that.
Absolutely.
Get the word out, because we just literally got some t-shirts.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We're like everything wrong with the industry. We like got merch, but we haven't played a gig.
Hey, you got to start somewhere, right? And I mean, you're hyped up on your stuff. Might as well get ready for it. Get the merch ready, and they're gonna be flying off the shelves.
I think it's a good idea to be prepared and have it before you start shows, so that way you can, you already have it ready to go and you start selling it once you guys start touring.
Like
I was gonna say, speaking of merch, we're wearing our own merch that we have never once attempted to sell. We were just like, I kind of want to wear something with our name on it. So maybe we'll have to maybe get some printed and send them your way as well.
It looks legit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was going to say, man, so just adding on to kind of what Shay was saying about the second EP and like how it's different. I think I'm probably right in saying like the faster stuff is like probably the biggest difference, because I think because we were so inexperienced, like especially me as writing stuff, I was just like almost like a hobbyist, like still am, you know what I mean? But like there was no band or anything at the time, so that you just kind of do whatever. But then being in the studio with Stephen, I think we all three of us learned so much from someone who's like actually does it as like pretty much like a day job. It's like it was really interesting, and I think we learned a lot. So like this second EP, there's some really fast sections. Shay's using way more of like his range. We've got some cool like bits where the bass isn't just following the guitars, because that's how I programmed it on the first EP. Like it's like there's some really I'm really happy with like some of the sections. So like you can like a couple of the songs start off, and I think other than like maybe a blast beat in Inflicted, like the rest of the EP, it's just like pretty much just like straight groove all the way through. But yeah, there's loads more like, yeah, there's faster drum beats, and there's like thrash beats, and there's some really dark stuff, and there's some really, really slow stuff. So yeah, I think I'm really happy with like the way we've kind of taken what we already had and kind of pushed it out into like other boundaries as to where we can, but still I think keeping it like, yeah, how we sound. Yeah.
You progressed, so to speak, right? Huh?
Know that.
That's awesome.
Definitely know that.
So when you said about being darker, I know there's been a lot of bands that have been sort of finding ways to infuse black metal sound. So is there like some of that in there? Kind of like Conjurer does a little bit of that.
There's a thrashy section in one of the songs, to be fair.
Well, vocally, I think you could say yes. Well, I guess Berserker does that a little bit, in the
yeah, I think like you definitely get some of that from Shay's. Like Shay's got great high screams. Like I'm going to say this because I know he hates taking compliments, but like Shay's highs are sick. Like they're really good. So like we used way more of that, and so yeah, and then also like, yeah, lows as well. There's like a few sections in there that are just like proper like all out. Shay just we were just sat in the studio, me and Keelan just like sat on the sofa and Shay's in the vocal booth. We were just like, yeah, just do it as low as you fucking can, and just whatever.
Just built it.
But yeah, there's definitely like maybe not black metal. We've not gone black metal, but definitely death metal has been a huge. I've been listening to like there's like some Meshuggah influence in there. So like, like there's some really on the next single, to be fair. So like the verses and that is just a little simple Meshuggah trick, where I just like offset the whole riff.
The little subtle bend.
Yeah. I just like I've offset the whole riff by like an eighth note, and then when it loops around, everything hits in the wrong place, but it still sounds cool. Like that kind of stuff. Nice. And then also like like Revocation and things like that, or bands like that. Sorry, yeah. So I've been jamming all that stuff. So yeah, hopefully it's a little bit heavier.
It's funny you say that, because I've been also like similarly doing like the deathcore, and like when we were talking earlier, you said about Archspire and stuff. I've been listening to them like nonstop for the last like 2 or 3 weeks. It's like
yeah, he's been on a death metal kick. I've been like almost in the complete opposite direction on like a prog rock kick, but strangely enough, I've been on a prog rock kick, but then also listening to like old Despised Icon, which makes no sense how that I'm mixing those together. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
It's just pure chaos over there.
It really is. My life is chaos, so it's kind of fitting that like the music I'm listening to fits that.
Just keep yourself on edge with the music too.
Oh yeah. Never. I can't get too comfortable. I got to switch things up. That's just my existence.
Yeah, going back to like what you were saying about local bands as well, like and death metal, it's like Viscera. You heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like Jamie Graham. So that's like the original vocalist from Heart of a Coward. So for me, that is like the number one, and like I feel like they've better produced this new stuff, and it's just I can't get enough of it. I know it's not everyone's. That I feel like my obsession with like the Fit for an Autopsy new album, and then this Viscera's kind of like I kind of like shove it down Ed's throat, and like put some more like stuff on it.
Yeah,
there's a bit of that. There is a bit of that coming up.
There's definitely like, and I do really try and listen to these guys, because as much as like, and I think this is the same with all like bands like ours nowadays. You've got like, if you take Era for example, it's just Jesse Cash writing everything, and if you take Currents, it's just Chris, I think, something writing everything. And I think there's always going to be that one person writing everything, but I feel like you have to try and, you don't have to make everyone happy, but I'd rather make everyone happy. So like, if Keelan's like saying, I'd really like it if we did a bit more of this, I always try and work it in. So there's definitely that kind of, that like deathcore kind of flavor in there, and yeah. But that's a hot tip for Sarah. If you haven't listened to the new album, just go and listen to that for like 3 months straight. And
I was gonna say I haven't listened to them in forever. I made sure to jot it down to remind myself to check it out later. So
I just did that too.
There's a song Resolver, and it's just got. The first time I listened to it, I was on a run, and I was just like, what's going on? Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to checking that out. We're always into discovering new music. So I mean, hence why we found you guys, and I mean, we didn't like, you guys popped up somehow. I don't even remember at this point, but that's why we felt so sort of, excited to share you guys with our audience as well. Because I know that pretty much anybody who listens to this podcast as well also likes to discover new music. So and we like to sort of prop up anybody who we think deserves more recognition. I think you guys sort of fit that for us as well. So but yeah, so that's awesome. I'm excited to check that out, and hopefully everybody listening to this is excited to check you guys out. Definitely looking forward to the new music. Before we wrap up here, do you guys have anything else you want to share or announce aside from the fact that you're looking for a drummer?
We are looking for a drummer. We desperately need a drummer and a second guitarist.
And a second guitarist. So if you're in the UK listening to this, hit these guys up.
Yeah, get us on our Instagram, and then just send us some clips of you playing and stuff. That'd be cool. Even if you weren't interested, it's cool to see people playing stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna start sending you guys random clips of me playing guitar and how awful it is. So no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm way too self-conscious to do that. I would never do that.
I've never written anyone to the Midlands of England ever.
I'd rather live where you guys live as opposed to where I live. I mean, Ed, you even came here the other day, and the first thing you said was "shithole."
That's funny.
Yeah, I live in this little seaside town that you can. If you ever feel like you ever have days where like you feel like crap about the way you look. I live in a kind of town where you can kind of walk through it and immediately start feeling better about yourself. It's like the only way I could describe it is my town is like the Jersey Shores that you guys have over there. It's the only way I can it's the only way I can describe it.
That's funny. Oh man. All right. Well, looking forward to visiting to feel better about myself. I am looking forward to that.
Have you guys ever been to the UK?
No,
I haven't.
You haven't?
It's on my list. I think the only place in Europe I've ever been is Italy at this point. So,
really?
Yeah, it's
probably the best. To be fair, Italy is probably the best.
Yeah,
I'll probably leave it there. To be honest,
just leave it. Just don't. Just like hang it up on a good note. Just
quit while you're ahead.
No, I definitely we're trying to get out, to Europe a little bit more. I know my wife and I are planning a trip to we're going to be in Budapest and Vienna and I forget Prague, the Czech Republic. We're doing
You're gonna go to a place called Prague.
I know, right? That's literally why I'm going there. I was like, I know nothing about this place, but I need to take a picture of myself wearing my Progressive Gentleman shirt or hoodie or something in Prague. I just felt like it was necessary. But
that's a lot. That's a lot of money for a photo.
Listen, Matt, don't shame me. Don't shame me, Matt. This is for both of us. All right, that's gonna be a great.
I appreciate the content.
That is commitment.
All right. Well, anything else you guys want to shout out, bring up before we wrap it up?
I don't know.
No, just keep posted on so we're Desolance UK on Instagram, and that's where we'll be teasing the new single, which is next up.
We're actually shooting a music video for that on Sunday.
Nice.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, we're busy boys at the moment trying to get ready for that. So yeah, we've got. I guess we can kind of say yes. So we're doing it'll be another 6-track EP.
Nice.
And we'll be doing all. We've obviously had one out, but we'll do the rest of the 5 as singles, and then should we tell them about the feature?
No, we got a surprise kind of coming up last on the EP, and it's pretty crazy when we think about it. But
yeah, I think for us,
I heard the word that you used there, so I kind of have. I mean, I obviously don't know the details there, but that's pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to finding out what that surprise is.
I guess we can. Yeah, it's like it's a feature. We've got someone featuring on the last song, and we're really stoked about it because it's just weird for us to go from like literally just like playing guitars in bedrooms to like then having someone that you respect so much and you look up to like featuring on a song. It's mad. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a bit surreal for us and a bit weird, and probably I don't know what the fuck he's doing. So like, to be honest, but yeah, he's lost his fucking mind.
He or she.
That's amazing.
We're not that kind of money together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really look forward to that. That's a cool way to sort of a cliffhanger ending here. So
yeah, I like ending on the spicy teaser. That's nice.
But
I'll send you the demo, you guys. Yeah.
Oh, please.
Oh, sweet.
Please. I can't wait to hear that. But yeah, honest, and anything that you guys share, we're definitely going to share as well. As you guys sort of progress through this process, we'll make sure to share on our socials as well, so that people are in the loop. And yeah, thank you guys so much for jumping on. We really appreciate your time, and really looking forward to what you guys have coming up next. I think you guys are destined for big things, and looking forward to sort of follow you guys through the process. So thank you guys so much. And
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us on, man. We really appreciate it. And yeah, like I said earlier, it's really cool to I really hope you guys keep doing what you're doing, because it's cool, because there's not enough of this kind of stuff in the genre. So you guys are sick.
Thank you so much. We also appreciate that validation. It makes us feel good. So
we'll be pushing you guys, for sure.
Thank you so much. And whenever you guys blow up, we'll have to have you on again so that you can prop us up a little more. So
we'll ride your coattails.
Absolutely.
We'll come over to Pittsburgh on our flying pigs. So.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you next time. Thanks.